For our structural perspectives project, I'll be covering the gravity load stones at Puma Punku, which is part of a large temple complex in Tiwanaku, Bolivia. What you're seeing here is a satellite image of the temple site. Tiwanaku is located incredibly close to the Brazilian border and also borders Lake Titicaca. It is a significant site for the Incan people as it is believed to be the site where the world was created. In their language, Puma Punku means the door of the puma and was believed to be a door for the gods. The area surrounding Tiwanaku was inhabited as early as 1500 BC and began as an agriculturally based village. Throughout the ages, Tiwanaku grew significantly in power and is thought to have been a moral and cosmological center to which many people made pilgrimages. Both the Tiwanaku civilization and the use of the temples appears to have peaked sometime between 700 AD to 1000 AD, by which point the temples and the surrounding area may have been home to around 400,000 people. The Tiwanakan Empire grew at an incredible rate due to its strategic location between the lake and the dry highlands. This site became a very important religious center for pilgrims, which can be seen by the impressive architecture that the people produced. During its heyday, Puma Punku was thought to have been quote-unquote unimaginably wondrous, as it was adorned with polished metal plaques, brightly colored ceramic and fabric ornamentation, and was likely to have been inhabited by costumed citizens who wore elaborate dresses and jewelry. An engineering feat, the walls of Puma Punku are comprised of large stones which are thought to have been quarried from Lake Titicaca and comprised of red sandstone. They fit together like puzzle pieces and were likely brought to the site with a large labor force. These stone blocks are cut so precisely that they were thought to have been mass-produced so that they could easily be exchanged with one another. They were created by masons using stone hammers, which created depressions, which were slowly ground and polished flat with stones and sand. In order to replicate this process, I have chosen to carve a balsa foam block using a clay carving tool, pencil and right triangle, and sandpaper. I have attempted here to create the geometries used in the block from the previous image. Before beginning the carving portion of this project, I used a right triangle and a pencil in order to mark off at right angles the portions of the block which needed to be carved first. Many of the joints of Puma Punku were cut so precisely that not even a razor blade would fit between the stones. The mason's understanding of descriptive geometry baffles me as I mark out my block for cutting. In order to cut the block, I have begun by using a razor blade to cut a straight line from the top of the block to the bottom, creating a fissure in the block, and then using a clay carving tool to slowly and carefully scrape away the sand-like balsa block. In order to create the puzzle piece-like connections of the blocks, I have first shaved a flat plane across the side of the block from top to bottom. I've gone back through to create a groove in the block from top to bottom so that the pieces can fit together like a puzzle. Though the interconnecting portions of the block are beautiful in their own right, the Incan masons would carve on the front and the back of the blocks, creating an experience on both sides of the temple. The most challenging part of the project by far was adding the telescoping detailing to the face of the block. With my meager carving tools, I was able to only go down 3 steps, but the blocks of the Puma Punku actually telescope up to 7 steps. Another challenging part of this project was to get the top and bottom of the balsa wood block to be rectilinear in profile. It was increasingly difficult, even at such a small scale, with a clay carving tool, to carve at an even rate from the top to the bottom at all times. Keeping in mind that one of the largest blocks on the Punku site has been measured to be 36 feet long, 16 feet wide, and 6 foot thick, it is incredible to me that the masons were able to carve with such precision the stone blocks of Punku. The puzzle piece blocks fit together, forming load-bearing joints, without the use of mortar. This allowed the stonemasons to create the blocks and put them in place without having to transport water from Lake Titicaca for mortar. As you can see from this archaeological photograph, even after thousands of years, the rectilinear connections of these blocks still hold true. This photo looks as though the block has been carved with a laser cutter or other modern technological device. As you can see from this diagram, the Incan masons cut several different forms, which could be turned and rotated and placed on top of one another to create several different forms. Thank you for listening to my Punku presentation.